Now I want to talk about Jay Jones in more detail, and then we're going to do Supreme Court Justice Assassin. I'm going to read to you. Audrey Fahlberg is a great reporter. She's with NR, and this is such a scoop. It dominated the media over the weekend, and rightfully so. And as I sketched it for you, it was dominated with leftists saying private texts, not great, but like private, and also Trump, and whatever. Moving on. Here's what actually happened, okay? This is her report, which you should check out first person at nationalreview.com. On August 8th, 2022, a Republican state legislator, she's talking about Jay Jones. Sorry, forgive me. She's talking about the woman who received Jay Jones's texts. Her name is Republican House Delegate Carrie Coiner. Received a disturbing string of early morning text messages from a former colleague, Jay Jones, this year's Democratic nominee for Virginia and Attorney General. That vote is in less than a month. Early voting's already underway in Virginia. It started on September 19th. Unfortunately, large portions of the state have probably already voted for this guy, not knowing what he is. She goes on, Jones, who at the time had recently resigned from the state house after a brief stint representing Norfolk, had strong feelings about how the political class was eulogizing recently deceased former state legislator Joe Johnson Jr., a moderate Democrat with a long tenure in Virginia politics. Republican legislators like House Speaker Todd Gilbert had begun making public statements honoring Johnson's memory and political legacy. That's Todd Gilbert, the one-time Speaker of the House in Virginia, who, despite the fact that he was a Republican, thought it was appropriate to honor a fallen Democrat, a deceased Democrat named Joe Johnson, who was moderate and who had just died. He was showing his humanity. And some of those statements made by Todd Gilbert, the Republican, were making the rounds in state legislative group chats. Around 8 a.m., Jay Jones shared his feelings with his former state legislative colleague, Carrie Coiner, in a series of text messages obtained by National Review. In them, Jones derided Johnson's, the dead Democrats' political centrism and scoffed at the glowing tributes that were being made in his honor by Republicans in the wake of his death. That's who Joe Jones is. Sorry, Jay Jones. He wanted people to keep quiet. He didn't want Republicans saying nice things about Democrats. He didn't like bipartisanship. He didn't like humanity being shown by any member of the GOP. He tried to send something to someone named Mark, but instead hit Coiner, who was obviously in his phone too. And he writes, damn, that was for Mark. Yet that realization, writes Audrey, yet that realization did not stop Jones from joking about what, quote, that POS, meaning piece of shit, Gilbert, would say about me if I died. Then the conversation took a dark turn. Quote, if those guys died before me, writes Jones, referencing the Republican colleagues who were publicly honoring the deceased Democrat, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves to send them out awash in something. Jones then suggested that, presented with a hypothetical situation in which he had only 2 bullets and was faced with the choice of murdering then Speaker of the House, Republican Todd Gilbert, or 2 dictators, he would shoot Gilbert every time, he said in quotes, prompting pushback from his former colleague. Here's how it goes. Jones, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. Coiner responds, Jay, please stop. Jones, LOL. Okay. Coiner, it really bothers me when you talk about hurting people or wishing death on them. It isn't okay, no matter who they are. It's unbelievable. This woman, like he's texted the wrong person, and it's a Republican, no less. And then when she very clearly, her responses are the kind of responses you wish you would have when your texts get unearthed to the world. They're spot on. She's not holier than thou, but she's like, stop it. It's not okay. You're making me uncomfortable. That's it. And she doesn't wax poetic. She doesn't go on. She just says, would you stop? Like, I don't like this. He won't listen. He is determined to make her listen to what he has to say. And he does go on. Okay, Audrey writes as follows at NR. Coyner's alarm at her former colleague's violent rhetoric toward Gilbert prompted Jones, Jay Jones, the guy writing them, to call Coyner and explain his reasoning over the phone. A source close to the exchange or familiar with it told NR. According to the source, the Democratic former legislator, again, a candidate for Virginia Attorney General right now, doubled down on the call, saying the only way public policy changes is when policymakers feel pain themselves, like the pain that parents feel when they watch their children die from gun violence. He asked her to provide counterexamples to disprove his claim. At one point, the source said, he suggested he wished Gilbert's wife, that's the Republican House Speaker at the time, could watch her own child die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views, prompting Coyner, the Republican he was talking to hang up the phone in disgust. Got that? He suggested he wished Gilbert's wife could watch her own child die in her arms so that Todd Gilbert might reconsider his political views. Now he's written that he wants Gilbert to get 2 bullets in the head. He's called her to reiterate that and to say he needs to feel pain and specifically wish death upon Gilbert's child in the mother's arms. And then afterward, this psychopath continues his barrage of messages to Coyner, saying he was just asking questions. Coyner dismissed his excuse via text and chastised him for hoping, though she incorrectly spells it hopping, that Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. Did he deny that? Did he say, oh, come on, I was just, being hyperbolic. I didn't mean it. It's just blowing steam off. No. Rather than deny that he had wished death on her children, Jones responded by saying, yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. Faced with more pushback from his frazzled former colleague, Jones somehow took the conversation a step further. I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes, he wrote, referring to Gilbert's wife and their 2 young children. This is so sick. Tomorrow, Rich Lowry and Charles C.W. Cook will be on the podcast from National Review. And I don't want to get ahead of this, but Charles has a great piece on NR right now, concluding that these texts are utterly disqualifying for Jay Jones, an attorney general. And he seizes upon that yes. I'll just give you a little preview. He writes, the most alarming of all the words in the Jay Jones text message scandal is yes. It comes after Jones's interlocutor, the moderate Republican House delegate Kerry Coyner, reminds Jones that he had just been talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die and that this is outrageous. Yes, Jones replies, only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. Why does this part in particular matter, writes Charles? I'll tell you, because it was considered. It was deliberate, malicious. And he goes on to make the point that sometimes people get carried away. Here, Jones confirms his thoughts, then calmly explains their logic. Yes is not a rash indiscretion or a lazy misstatement. It is a confirmation of what? Of a worldview. That's what. This is the point I'm trying to make. This is the point of the whole episode. It is a confirmation of what? Of a worldview. That's what. A worldview. They show it to us over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It is a confirmation of a worldview, one that Donald Trump saw firsthand in July of 2024, as did Corey Compertori, as did David Dutch, as did Jim Copenhaver. One that Brian Thompson, unfortunately, never saw coming when he was shot in the back by that coward Luigi Mangione. One that Charlie never saw coming either. He predicted they'd be violent. He did. He was worried about his safety. He was more worried about Trump's They tried to kill Trump twice. Let's not forget that guy who tried to take him down the following month at his golf course down in Florida. He just got convicted in court after representing himself. One that these ICE agents are having to deal with every day. A worldview, a confirmation. Did you know gold is up around 40% this year? That's not speculation, it's reality. And if a portion of your savings is not diversified into gold, you are missing the boat. Here are the facts. Inflation is still too high. The US dollar is still too weak. And the government debt is still growing. This is why central banks are flocking to gold. They're the ones driving prices up to record highs. But it's not too late to buy gold from Birch Gold Group and get in the door now. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into one in gold. You don't pay a penny out of pocket. Just text MK to 989898 and claim your free info kit. There's no obligation, just useful information. The best indicator of the future is the past, and gold has historically been a safe haven. Text MK to 989898 right now to claim your free info kit on gold. MK to 989898. Protect your future today with Birch Gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.